Hello, I'm Sam Jahari, and welcome to AllPointsTV.com. This is Briona's Legacy. It's so good to be with you today. Well, let's bring you up to speed on what we got going this week. I think a couple days ago or last week, our Governor Snyder, he signed a bill, or he got a task force against prescription drugs. Hey, it's about time, that they realize that this thing is a problem. And it's not just our state, every state is starting to commit to this. Why do they do that? Because more than likely it's hitting in their homes, so they see this firsthand. This is hitting in every home. Okay, and that's what's happening is you get a tooth pulled, or you go for you were in a car accident, or you got some kind of pain issue. I mean, look at it. Since 1980s, I believe, what happened is opiates, or these pain pills, they were used primarily for people that were dying, so they didn't have any discomfort in their last days. They didn't want them feeling any pain, but they didn't realize the after effects of these opiates, or these prescription drugs that's used for pain. The Vicodins, the cancer treatment for pain and stuff. Okay, so what happened in the 80s? They said, these drug companies, they said, well, you know what? There's a lot of money that we're missing out on these pain pills, these opiates. All right. So what they did, now you go into a doctor's office, what do you see? You see this chart with this smiley face to the frown. Where is your pain level? Where is your pain level? That's all they care about. They don't ask you what you came in to see me today for. They ask you, where is your pain level today? You know what? And the whole thing is, when you ask somebody, where's your pain level? They're going to come up with something. Oh, my butt hurts, my back hurts, my shoulder hurts, my arm hurts. So all of a sudden, we start prescribing these opiates, and they start prescribing them like it's going out of style, because it's all about the money, ladies and gentlemen. It's not about you or me, it's about the money. All right, so what happens? All of a sudden, they say, well, heroin is on an uprise. We've seen this thing go 1,000% increase. Well, why? Well, 80% of all heroin users, okay, that's 4 out of 5, ladies and gentlemen, 4 out of 5 people, they begin with the prescription drugs. All right, here's what it is. All right, they say 10% of us are addicts, or we have this addiction genes, or brain disease, or whatever you want to call it. All right, and 70% of us, we inherit this from, our families somewhere. Our mother, father, grandfather, grandmother, wherever, okay, we inherit this gene. So then the other 30%, it's who you're hanging with, and the environment that you're in. All right, so they say, well, only 10% are these addicts. So they've let it just actually go for, we've had this war on drugs since the 70s. Then in the 80s, all of a sudden the opiates. Then in the 90s, all of a sudden heroin is making this big uprise, and people are dying. And here, 2015, where we're at today, we are losing people every 13 minutes. We are losing people, 328 people a day, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't that crazy? Oh, so we have a task force from, our governor. Thank God, they're actually trying to tackle this head on. But here's the thing, okay? They're trying to tackle this prescription drug thing, but they made this task force, but there's nothing about getting people help. All right, they're trying to take care of the problem by the prescription end of it, but how about the treatments of these addicts? Well, hopefully, enough of these coalitions are rising up everywhere, and hopefully, with enough voice that we're going to get heard, and they can tackle this, the treatment centers, okay, or the treatment aspects of addicts. The whole thing is, I want to share with you today something that I came across on Facebook, and it's something that you really need to see, because as a parent, I always thought this isn't going to happen to me, but it happens. It happens every day, and it's places where you never think possible. All right, it's your own backyards, ladies and gentlemen. It's happening in our homes. Okay, and nobody is immune to drugs. Nobody is immune to addiction. All right, I'm going to share this tape with you, and I'll come back in a little bit and we'll discuss it.
She had a smile that would light up her room. She had a passion for basketball. Then she picked up golf, and she was a natural with that. She really enjoyed the game.
The one thing that caught us truly off guard going towards the end is we didn't realize how badly she felt about herself. Look at the pictures. Why would we think she had a self-esteem problem? Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is, that was one of the major engines that drove her to areas where she really didn't need to go, didn't have to go.
My spoons started to disappear. And I'm not talking, one or two. It'd be like, okay, I have like 3 spoons left.
And I remember I had $150 some in my wallet. When I went to pay that, I had $75. And of course, she started crying. And yes, I came down. Yes, I took your credit card. Yes, I used it.
And I remember going to court the next day and beautiful Marin, and then bringing her in, shackles on her ankles in these prison uniform. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, how did we get here? I was just numb.
She needed the money to pay some people back, and she needed the money to trade the gas for the heroin.
If you would have asked us, what do you know about heroin? I would have said a street drug, a junkie's drug. Not something that you hear about on TV. It's not something that you would find in a community like Pickerington or any suburb. I mean, every day was that we have to keep her alive. We have to save her. If she said she was going to a meeting, I would follow ahead of time and sit in the parking lot and see her walk in, because I could breathe again, because she showed up. We got one more day. She's sober one more day. She never even had a car, but she still found a way to get it, because they would just bring it to the house when we were sleeping.
I remember walking into the apartment, and I've never heard such a horrendous scream in all my life. When I went up and walked through that bathroom door and saw him there holding my daughter, I knew immediately she'd passed away.
I know she really wanted to make it. And I know she doesn't want to see any other family go through what we have gone through. And I know she wants me to talk about it. And I found her journal that I bought for her. In her journal, she wrote a goodbye letter to heroin. Dear heroin, before I met you, I was full of life, at least from what I thought. But then problems started coming my way that gave me the excuse to meet you. It was like love at first sight. Not only did you do things for me, but boy, did I do things for you. I lied to my family, friends, and even more importantly, I lied to myself. I would steal and cheat for you. I would risk my freedom and my life for you. But our relationship went to hell when the first and last time you really almost took me away forever. You had me for 7 minutes. I won this battle, and I will never have to suffer again. Sincerely, your worst enemy, Marin Briggs. She still went back to it. That it was still because of the grip it had on her.
Do I miss her every day? Oh, sure.
You can't bring her back, and we can't go back. But if we can help other people by telling our story, then that's what we have to do.
Wow. I can really relate to the story. Okay? Lots of things that this gentleman was saying and the mom was saying, I went through myself. And Briona was beautiful. And she lit up a room. She was a comedian. And everybody loved her. And everybody was drawn to her. She played sports. She was on the debate team and was very good at it. But I think also, Briona was diagnosed with bipolar. And I didn't know that, I think she suffered with self-esteem also. Briona would always say, "Daddy, am I beautiful?" I say, "You're the most beautiful girl I know," But why is she asking? I guess she lacked that, the whole thing is, I was going through pictures at my son graduated from high school and we're getting ready for his open house. And all the pictures I came across, she just had this big smile on her face, and she was happy. And, and it's like, what the hell happened, The whole thing is, life happens to everybody, not just to us, but to you, to your neighbor, to your friends, to your family. Life happens. With Briona, her downfall, she lost a mom, that died of addiction. She died of an overdose. And that's where I started to see my daughter just kind of, more into herself. And she just kind of faded from us. The smile on her face wasn't maybe it wasn't realistic, or really she wasn't telling what she was really feeling. And I do believe that was her downfall, because right after that, Brianna started to experiment with alcohol and prescription drugs, and then later she met an older boy that was struggling from the same thing, as her mom. And see, Brianna, she always wondered, why does my mom love the drug more than me? And to be honest with you, I really couldn't explain that to her, But I knew what she was feeling, and I tried my best. To be honest with you, I really didn't know. I really didn't know about the sickness of addiction. Later I found that when I found out that Brianna started using heroin, and I said, Brianna, why would you do this? You've seen your mom die of this, And she said, Daddy, I wanted to know what was so good about this drug that kept my mom away. Well, to all the professionals, it sounded realistic, To me, it was like, what the hell does that mean, It's like you see someone die of a poison. You just want to see what it's going to do to you, or you just think you're bigger than it, or it's not going to affect you that way. It's like playing Russian roulette, and having the bullet go off. And that's what it is. That's what heroin is. You're playing Russian roulette. And sooner or later that bullet's going to come out, You're just going to be so lucky. The lady, they talk about spoons coming up, disappearing. We used to find like these, we thought they were gum wrappers, and it was the wrapper that the heroin would come in, which is nuts, You never think this is going to come to your home, or someone that you know. What the lady say? She says, heroin was a street drug, It's about these homeless people and the people on the street. No. This drug, it's not prejudice. It don't care how much money, what kind of house you live in, what your parents do. It doesn't care. And see, it's not just our children, but it's also people of adults and mothers, fathers, grandparents. No one is immune to this drug. No one grows up and says, hey, when I get older, or one day I'm going to be a heroin addict or an addict of anything. Because you see, as an addict, you lie, you cheat, you steal, you sell your ass, boys and girls. You do anything and everything for the drugs. And in return, it just kind of numbs you for that minute. It numbs you for a little while, but what happens is you become so sick that you have to have it just to function. So that's addiction, ladies and gentlemen. And I wanted to, when I came across this, I could relate to this family in so many ways. And, after Briona died, I started to speak out because when it's happening in your home, you don't want to talk about it. You're embarrassed, and you don't want nobody to know what's going on in your home. But after she died, it was I just started opening my mouth, and I realized that there's an epidemic, and this epidemic, this heroin epidemic, is just, it's crazy. Too many kids are dying. Too many people are dying. You know, I go back to, you know, a couple years ago or a year or so ago, we had that Ebola, you know, came on to America, and we lost one person, and, you know, the president made a czar, and they had this task force, you know, for Ebola. And we spent all this money and everything, you know, and sure enough, you know, I think we only ended up losing 1 or 2 people for Ebola here in the United States. But, you know, it's like our government, our president, everybody was in an uproar. You know, that's all you heard on the news and stuff. And we lose 328 people a day. And you're lucky to hear about it. It's just washed away in the sand, or you know, they don't want to bring it out on the surface. And what happens is, when people lose loved ones, you know, it's such a painful experience that you go through, that coalitions arise, and you know, you want to make a difference. You don't want somebody else to feel the pain that you went through. You don't want someone else to feel what you just went through. You hope that you can make a difference in somebody, that you can stop this from happening to the next family. You know, the lady, she talked about, you know, her daughter, she didn't have a driver's license. It's funny, my daughter, she didn't have a driver's license either, but my daughter had a car. She was 17, she had a car, she had put it in some friends of hers' name, and, you know, she was driving. Briona, you know, well, she had moved away, and she was gone for about 3 months. And, you know, I seen her at Christmas time, and the last Christmas that we were together, you know, I had gotten Briona this dolphin necklace, because her mom loved dolphins, and, you know, she had them in her room and stuff like that. So, you know, I remember she spent the night that night, and we opened gifts in the morning, and she left. And, you know, she called me on New Year's, and you could tell in her voice that, you know, she was out of it, because she's, you could barely understand what she was saying, you know, but she called. New Year's is my birthday, so she called to wish me a happy birthday. And you could tell she was buzzed, you know. She was like slurring her words and stuff. And about a week or so later, Briona called me, and she said, "Daddy, I want to come home. You know, I overdosed, Daddy. I almost died. I don't want to do this shit anymore." And, you know, I have 2 boys at home, you know, that were younger. And, you know, I told her, I says, "Honey, you know, you have 2 brothers that we need to look out for. And you can't be doing this shit around them, you know. You can't be doing this at home, but my house is always open to you." And, you know, she said, "I promise," you know, and for then, you know, I let her come home. You know, as we were looking at these pictures and stuff, I got a letter in the mail, and actually the letter was addressed to my son, the one that graduated. And the letter was to himself that he wrote in 7th grade. And in the letter, he talked about different things and what he wished for and stuff like that. And I have a sister that had been missing, or she's still missing, that he had wrote, I hope we find her and we find out what happened to her. Then, he wrote, I hope Briona's doing better, and I hope that we can be best friends. It's so hard on a family, to see a loved one just falling through the cracks. And no matter what you do, it's not good enough. Or it doesn't really help. Or you're just spinning your wheels. It's hard to go back, but sometimes we have to go back to be able to go forward. And I know I can't ever bring her back, but it's still very difficult. It still feels like yesterday. And this hole in my heart, I don't think will ever mend. And what I was saying before is a lot of times I'm no different than you or any other person. Sometimes tragedies happen in our life and we fall. And, part of life and living is we have to get up. No matter how hard it is. Everybody has their own little time frame. Losing Briona was the hardest thing in my life. And I fell hard. But, I realized that I had 2 other kids that needed me in their life, and they needed a father to be there for them. And really that helped me to get up. Because after Briona died, I suffered of depression. And I still suffer from depression. But depression is, your whole body aches. And you don't understand. You know what you need to do, but you just can't. Just little things. Taking a shower, brushing your teeth, changing your clothes, getting out of bed. It's just the little things of life that you need to do. They're very hard for you. And this, you just want this pain to go away. The whole thing is, a lot of times, we want the easy way out. Or, we go to someone that's a specialist in this area for your pain. And that could be a doctor or a psychiatrist or whatever. And a lot of times, they're the troublemakers. I can speak for myself, okay? Listen, I'm not putting doctors down. But doctors, they think that everything is handled through writing a prescription and take another pill. And I think sometimes even, if you just listen to the side effects of these pills for whatever it is, sometimes I think you're better off with what you have than all these other side effects. So I'm glad to see that our governor, you know, is getting this task force together and holding these people accountable. Because what happens is, it's like this. Here's an educated person that went to school for, 12 years, to become a doctor of some sort, maybe 8 to 10, all right? And they just think there's a pill for everything. So, within a few minutes of speaking to your doctor, okay, he's already writing you a prescription. He hasn't even checked you out or give you a physical or did anything yet, but he's already writing you a prescription. And that's where all the problems start. About 4 months of being depressed, my wife, she said, honey, you need to go to speak to somebody. So I did, Now, we're already, at this point, we're going into schools, and I think by this point, I'm already been at maybe 2 or 3 schools, telling Briona's story. And to be honest with you, listen to the 911 call, and going through that, it's like reliving, that day that she died. It's reliving seeing her with that needle in her arm, and her face is blue, and it's just I was angry. I was so angry, that I lost my child. So when I spoke to the therapist, after a couple months speaking to the therapist, she thought, well, Sam, maybe if you slept more, that might help you to feel better. And so at that point, I went to see a psychiatrist. I guess that's who writes the prescriptions or whatever. And sure, it started with a sleeping pill, and within 4 months, I'm on 5 different medications. And the last time I went, I've got all this medicine with me, and the doctor, he says, so are you sleeping any better? And I said, no. He said, well, how's the depression? And I said, I'm still depressed. Well, how's your energy level? Well, I'm groggy. I'm this, I'm that. He said, well, wait, maybe we need to change this. And at that point, I looked at this doctor and I said, you know what, doc? I really don't think there's anything you're going to give me that I'm going to feel any better. I said, I lost my child. Maybe, I'm not a doctor, but maybe I'm supposed to feel, Maybe that's the only way I can go through this, is I have to feel this pain and work my way through it. He says, well, I don't know what you came to see me for then. At that point, I kind of got up in my chair, and I put all these pills, these prescriptions on his table, and I says, Doc, I don't know why I came, but I know I'm not coming back. And do I still suffer with depression? I do. But, with the grace of God, I can get through it. Because God said, when it gets too heavy for you to bear, put it in my hands, and I'll help you through it. And he helped me to get through it. And another thing, I told you of the present that I gave my daughter the last Christmas, the dolphin necklace. And on October 9th, Briona had turned 18, and she had been gone approximately about 8 months now. And as a family, we decided we were going to get together and we were all going to go to the cemetery to celebrate, the day of her birth, her birthday. So when we all got to the cemetery, it was approximately about 7 o'clock. It was just starting to get kind of dark, and the moon was just lit so bright. And when the moon was lit, there was it was lit onto this cloud, and the cloud was a dolphin. It was the image of a dolphin. And God was telling me, Brianna's okay. You need to be okay. This is the path I chose for you. This is how I felt. Listen, I've always had my own personal relationship with God. And I'm not a preacher. And I'm not trying to preach to nobody. I'm just telling you what I went through. And this was the road that I went through after this loss that was so devastating. And, it was, I started to feel better inside. And I knew that this was the path that I needed. Because you see, when Briona died, well, let's go back to when Briona was conceived. I wasn't trying to get Tina pregnant. I was using protection, okay? And I went through the rubber, and Briona was conceived. And to be honest with you, I was scared. I was scared for Tina to have my child because I was afraid she was going to relapse. I was afraid of what she was going to do, with my child. And all the things I was scared about actually happened. But at the time, I told Briona's mom, I says, have an abortion, Now, I'm just telling you what I went through. I'm not trying to tell you what to do in your life or any of that, okay? This is my story, and that's what I'm trying to explain to you. This is how I felt. I felt like, she didn't want an abortion. And I told her, I said, you know what, Tina? Just know, that I'm here for her. I'm here for this child if you ever fall, And sure enough, I still had to fight tooth and nail, to get this child away from her mother. But again, when it's like I was so mad at God. Why did you take my child? You gave her to me. I wasn't asking. I wasn't trying to have a baby, but you gave her to me. Why to take her away? So as I seen that cloud that day, because when you're going through all of this, you try to figure out what the hell happened, to get where we got. And that was my philosophy. That was what I came up with, That was her purpose, maybe, to come to this, so I would speak out about, addiction, to speak out so I can help other people. So I can save people from Briona's story. This is what I felt. And it helped me to feel better. Because, see, a lot of times I think, I don't care how much you have your life planned out for you. God might have a different plan for you. And I don't care how much you're not listening. You get pushed into it, or that's how I felt. I was never a speaker. I was never, I've been in sales my whole life, pretty much, and a business owner. And all of a sudden, it's like I'm asked to speak. I was a coach with Briona and with my boys. And all of a sudden, it's like, this is what I felt like when I got on stage and was speaking out. I felt like these kids were responding to me. And I felt like a teacher or a coach or a preacher. I guess kind of, but I wasn't preaching. What I'm doing is I'm telling Briona's story, what happened to me to get to where I am today. And from that, there was a community parent that formed, and from that there was Chasing the Dragon, the presentation, and the presentation. I don't know if you've seen the presentation or you haven't seen the presentation. The presentation, it started out with the sheriff, telling people this is live, true facts. They're not actors, they're real people that these things happen to. And as he goes off, there's music playing, and all the kids are really into it, and they're showing pictures of drug dealers or drug addicts, like before and after pictures, before they got arrested and after they got arrested. And this one was, a heroin addict, or this one was, a pill addict, or this one was whatever, and you see the changes in these people happen. And then, as they're playing that, all the kids, they're really into it. Pictures don't really mean anything, but all of a sudden, the 911 call comes. And from that, you can hear a pin drop, because we've got their attention. Then, of course, after the 911, you see kids crying. We've seen kids pass out, where it hits home, because you see children or these teenagers, they can relate because it's happening in their homes. They've seen friends die, or siblings, or parents, even grandparents, all right, that this is happening in their homes. And you see teenagers or children, when they're affected, they want somebody to talk to. And especially now, they feel that one-on-one with you, because why? It happened to you, so they can relate to you. That makes sense? Hell yeah, it makes sense. Well, Chasing the Dragon, after I come out and tell Briona's story, Briona's a friend of hers, 2 days later, she died of an overdose. And how did she die? She died in her own home. Okay? She had the drug dealer come to her house, shoot her up. He watched her die. He cleaned up after himself, and he snuck out the house. And there was nothing that they could do against this dealer, even though they had him on a text that he was coming over to the house. The father seen him go upstairs with her, and it wasn't until his wife came home later, and she asked about the daughter, And he said, oh, she's with a friend of hers upstairs. She says, oh, I didn't see no cars in the driveway. As they ran upstairs, they found their daughter dead. So he would speak. Well, as we spoke in schools, as we had meetings where we would have 120, 180, 200 people show up at these meetings, for community parent, and we were realizing how bad this epidemic was. We were realizing that it's happening almost in every home, almost in every family. It's not 10% that's affected. We're all affected. Every one of us. Every one of us is affected. Some of us can sweep it under the carpet and not let you know what's happening. And others, they just want to scream and yell and tell the world that this is happening. I had another person that spoke, and her daughter was an addict of heroin, and she was prostituting to get her drugs. And this lady was just scared to lose her child. As she was scared, it was like a reality for her. She said, I wait for that phone call. I wait for that phone call for them to tell me my daughter is dead. We had another kid speak that this kid went to a farm party, which is a pharmaceutical party, that there's alcohol, there's weed, there's cocaine, and then there's every kind of drug that somebody has in the cabinet that they throw into this bowl. And it's a free-for-all. Well, this kid that speaks, he went to one of these pharmaceutical parties, and he passed out. And the next day, they just let him sleep. Oh, he's okay. He just passed out. He'll be good tomorrow. So the following day, they go to move this kid, and he didn't respond. So what happens is this kid throws up, and his own vomit, stops his breathing. God knows for how long. But they do revive him. But this kid, this happened to him when he was 19, and it was a year and a half later that he started speaking with us. And he was quadriplegic. 5 minutes of so-called fun. He also spoke. So what happens, in our society, I'm thinking, I am no different than you. This other parent that lost their child, this other parent that has a quadriplegic child, we're not different. We're not different, everybody has their own beliefs or whatever. They're good families, they're well providers for their families. They have nice homes, but it happened in their homes. The whole thing is, every one of us, when a tragedy happens in our life, I remember when, my sister was missing. My mom was a mess, Well, of course, she went to her doctor, and her doctor, quickly gave her Xanax. I think another sister was on Xanax too, It's like, we're in pain, We want to numb the pain. But 10% of us, that's the start. that's the beginning of the downfall. You know, that one pill or that one drink or that one joint. From trying to numb the pain, you have a life of misery with more pain. And that's what I was thinking, you know, as I'm looking through these pictures, you know, how we got here. I am no different than you. But it's just to tell you that this can happen to you. Because it can happen to anybody. No one is immune. No one is immune. You know what's weird is the person that you bring up, this loving, wonderful person that you raised, turns into this monster that they don't even know who they are anymore. You stop loving them? No. Your love is unconditional. And it's so hard. It's so hard to go through that with them. But sometimes in life, we need to make sense of it all. And you start doing these soul searching, you know? That's what I did. And, you know, and I'm just telling you about this is what happened to me. You know, everybody's different. You need to get through your pain whatever way works for you. But a lot of times, you know, it's in that bottle or it's in that pill. And it doesn't really help. It numbs the pain for a minute. It does. And hopefully you don't have this addiction gene. And hopefully, you know, you don't let it get the best of you. Because sooner or later it will. And that's what happens, you know, with heroin. Why it's such a uprise, 1,000% increase in all this of heroin deaths. Because you will go to the doctor for a pain of whatever it is. And you are given prescriptions. You are given a prescription that your body will build an immune system to it, so you will need more of it. And as you need more of it, you know, after 3-4 months, you have built this tolerance to that now you want to add some alcohol to it. And so, you know, the pain pills and that, it slows your heart rate down. So now you add the alcohol and it slows your heart rate even a little more, and that's why a lot of overdoses happen. Drugs and alcohol are mixed, and you know, you take twice as much as you were supposed to, or now you're hooked and you start lying to your doctor. Oh, I lost these prescription or whatever, so he can write you more. And then guess what? You know, the doctor says, you're an addict. I'm not giving you any more drugs. So this doctor that you go for or go to help heal, now you're really, really sick. And he says, no more pills, and I'm not going to see you anymore. So you'll try to work, you know, to go to other doctors to get your pills or whatever. Or you start stealing, you start buying them on the street, or you turn into a criminal. And a lot of times when we turn to the street, sooner or later you're going to have one of these dealers, you know, that will say, hey man, this heroin is a lot cheaper to get. Or they might even just turn you on to it for nothing, because they know you're going to come back. So they'll give it to you. Now you're hooked. Really, really bad. That's why 80% of deaths or heroin users, 80%, they start on the prescription drugs. And that's why, here in Michigan, we have this task force, against prescription drugs. Hallelujah, it's about time, huh? It is. But in everything we do, in society, we always want to cage people up or take them off the street. And there's nothing really in this task force for treatment. And that's what we need to look at, ladies and gentlemen. We say, well, they're sick. Here's a sickness that nobody wants to talk about because of the stigma of an addict. But, we don't have any problem saying we have cancer. We don't have any problem saying we're diabetic. But there's a stigma behind addiction that we do have a problem talking about. And this is the only way, that we can actually move forward, is by communicating. By, all these coalitions that are going up almost on every block. Because it's happening in every town. It's happening in every city. 70% of this addiction is happening more in the suburbs. Okay? A lot of times the inner city, they're bringing in these hard drugs. In the inner city, it's more about marijuana and it's more about alcohol. Okay? It's not that you don't find it there, but 30% you'll find the hard drugs. And a lot of times it's because the inner city is bringing in these hard drugs. Okay? A good dealer never messes with their stuff. All right? Because they see where it leads to. But every now and then, they have to try it or whatever, that they fall into their game. So, if it's 30% in the inner city and 70% in the suburbs, that pretty much covers everywhere. Okay? Whether the addiction is marijuana or it's alcohol, it's just as bad. Anything that controls you to do the craziest shit that you never thought you could do, that's not a good thing. How many deaths happen from alcohol? Okay? Listen, I don't say to use marijuana or anything else. All right? But we have a lot of people in our prisons that are doing life for nonviolent crimes. And guess what that crime is? It's drugs. It's these people that are sick. Sick. And we just lock them away. I don't know what the solution is, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to open your minds and hopefully get you talking. And hopefully when you go to vote, you vote your conscience. And you hold these people that we vote for accountable. Accountable to do the right things. Because you see, politicians, they are your employers or your employees. You are the employer by going and voting. All right? But they can only do what you want them to do by holding them accountable. And don't just cast a vote. That's the best of the two evils. No. It's about you holding them accountable and taking our country back to the Constitution. Okay? And what our forefathers seen long ago. Everything's intertwined together. Addiction or any of that. All right? Hold our people accountable that we put in place. Okay? They work for us, ladies and gentlemen. But they can only work for you if you're not missing the boat. if you're standing up and being accountable and holding them accountable. When I go to speak in the schools, you know, a lot of times I go to these funerals and I hear kids saying, you know, I wish I would have said something. And I tell them in these presentations, listen, stand up. Stand up for your neighbor. Stand up for your friends. Stand up for people you don't know. And that's what I tell you. Because together, we can make a difference. I look at it this way. One hand doesn't clap by itself. And the louder the voice, the more we get things done. This is just a vessel. But I need you to jump aboard. I need you to join me in this fight. Because our kids are worth it. Because sooner or later, ladies and gentlemen, this is coming to your home. Believe me, it's coming to your home. Don't say, this isn't going to happen to me. Because you're not immune. These drugs are stronger than anything. Join me in this fight. Again, my name is Sam Jahari. Thanks for listening today. Hopefully we'll see you next week. God bless.